The moment she walked into the cafe carrying more than just her purse, the air shifted in a way that could not be undone. Rain clung to her coat, exhaustion rested on her shoulders, and the little girl gripping her hand looked far too serious for someone so small. It was supposed to be simple, almost forgettable, just another blind date arranged by well-meaning friends. But the second the single dad looked up from his table and saw that child, something deep inside him cracked open, stirring memories he had buried for years and setting in motion a night that would quietly change 3 lives forever. Before the story pulls you any deeper, take a moment to pause. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet miracles that happen when broken people find each other, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. She had almost canceled that evening. The babysitter backed out at the last minute. The little girl had cried herself to sleep twice already, and the mirror reflected a woman who felt older than her years. Being a single mother was not part of the life she once imagined. She had pictured laughter without strain, love without conditions, and a family that did not feel like a daily act of survival. But life had rewritten her plans with cruel efficiency. The little girl was her world now, her reason to wake up even on mornings when hope felt thin. Leaving her alone was not an option, and so she made a choice that felt both embarrassing and brave. She brought her daughter along, telling herself that honesty was better than pretending to be someone she no longer was. The cafe glowed warmly against the cold evening, a small island of light in a city that never slowed down for tired hearts. The single dad had arrived early, as he always did, sitting near the window where he could watch people pass by without being seen. He was used to being overlooked, a man shaped by responsibility and loss. Years earlier, life had torn something precious away from him, leaving him to raise his son alone while carrying grief that never truly softened. Dating had become rare and cautious, something he approached with the same careful calculation he used for everything else in his life. He did not expect much from that night, only polite conversation, and maybe the relief of knowing he had tried again. When he saw her walk in, his first reaction was confusion, followed quickly by a familiar tightening in his chest. The little girl's presence hit him like a wave of cold water. His mind raced through assumptions he did not want to make. Maybe she was careless. Maybe she did not take the date seriously. Maybe this was a mistake. But then the child looked up at him with wide, uncertain eyes, and something else surfaced, something he could not ignore. He saw not inconvenience, but fear, not disrespect, but vulnerability. It was the same look his own child used to have when the world felt too big. She noticed the change in his expression immediately. Years of being judged had sharpened her instincts. She braced herself for rejection, for the polite excuse that would follow, for the moment she would gather her daughter and leave with her dignity bruised but intact. She had lived through worse. Still, her heart pounded as she approached the table, aware that this single moment might confirm every quiet fear she carried about being unlovable in her current reality. What neither of them knew was that the little girl, tired from the long day and overwhelmed by new surroundings, would become the unexpected bridge between 2 guarded souls. She clung tighter to her mother, her small fingers trembling, and in that silent gesture the single dad recognized something profoundly familiar. He remembered hospital hallways, sleepless nights, and the weight of responsibility pressing down on him when he thought he might break. He remembered choosing his child over everything else, over dreams, over comfort, over himself. As they sat together, the evening unfolded slowly, awkward at first, then surprisingly gentle. The little girl colored quietly with crayons borrowed from the cafe counter, her presence shaping the rhythm of the night. There were pauses where conversation drifted, moments where uncertainty hovered, but there was also something else. There was understanding, not spoken but felt. The single dad found himself watching the way the woman brushed her daughter's hair back, the patience in her movements, the way love showed up not as grand gestures but as constant attention. She spoke about her life in careful strokes, never asking for pity, never hiding the truth. She spoke of long nights, of learning to be strong because there was no other choice, of finding joy in small victories like a good report from school or a quiet evening without tears. He listened, really listened, and in doing so realized how rare that had become for him. He shared his own story with equal restraint, revealing the outlines of loss and responsibility without drowning the moment in sorrow. The little girl eventually grew restless, her energy fading into sleepiness. When her head leaned against her mother's side, the single dad felt a lump rise in his throat. He remembered carrying his own child out of places late at night, the weight of a small body trusting him completely. Without thinking, he offered help in the only way he knew how, with gentleness and respect. In that simple act, something shifted, walls lowered, fear loosened its grip. The night did not end with fireworks or promises. It ended with something far rarer. It ended with honesty. They parted knowing that neither had been pretending, that what had been seen was real. For the woman, it was the first time in a long while that she did not feel like she had to apologize for her life. For the single dad, it was the first time he allowed himself to imagine a future that included someone else's pain alongside his own. Days passed, then weeks. They met again, always with the little girl present, always moving at a pace that honored her needs as much as their own. Slowly, trust grew. The single dad introduced them to his son, a cautious step that carried both hope and fear. The children approached each other with the simple curiosity adults often lose, finding common ground in games and shared laughter. Watching them together, the adults felt something neither had expected: healing. There were challenges, of course. Old wounds do not vanish easily. There were moments when fear whispered that this was too complicated, too fragile to last. There were nights when exhaustion made everything feel heavier than it needed to be. But there was also choice. Each day, they chose patience over pride, understanding over judgment. They chose to show up. The woman learned that being seen did not always lead to rejection. The single dad learned that opening his heart did not mean betraying his past. Together, they discovered that love does not always arrive in the form you expect. Sometimes it comes quietly, wrapped in responsibility, asking not for perfection but for presence. As seasons changed, so did their lives. The cafe became a memory, the starting point of a story they would one day tell with smiles and gratitude. The children grew more confident, their laughter filling spaces that once felt empty. And in the midst of ordinary days, something extraordinary took root. A family formed not from ideal circumstances, but from resilience, compassion, and the courage to keep going. If this story has touched your heart even a little, if it reminded you that love can bloom in the most unexpected places, please take a moment now to like the video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who may be standing on the edge of hope. Before the ending, we have one special request for you. Please comment below with a single word that represents what this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. In the end, it was never about the blind date or the surprise of bringing a child along. It was about two people brave enough to show their real lives to a stranger, and discovering that sometimes the very things we fear will push others away are the things that draw the right ones closer. And in that quiet truth, hearts healed, futures changed, and a simple evening became the beginning of everything.